You ever see someone so obsessed with control, you almost want to step back and see how the universe handles it for you? That's exactly what happened the day Linda's roof went up like a bonfire in a fireworks warehouse. Not kidding. The flames shot up so fast, I actually wondered if the sky was in on it. Big bang, sparks raining straight down, and the only thing burning? Linda's place. Now, if you know anything about Linda, well, you get why a little part of me almost found it poetic. Anyway, I was there. You can picture it. Chaos in high definition. Smoke so thick you'd swear it was trying to crawl inside your lungs. People scrambling, shouting, phones everywhere. Linda, she didn't run. She didn't even look surprised. There she was, red suit, not a hair out of place, standing in the middle of it like the fire was an inconvenience, not an emergency. And honestly, it fit her. Linda wasn't the type to lose her cool. She was the president of the Homeowners Association, Sunrest Junction, if that means anything to you. And trust me, she never let anybody forget it. Control. That was her thing. Not just her job, her whole personality. Every single decision, from mailbox height to what color mulch you could use, it all ran through Linda's filter. And that filter? Image over everything. She wanted everything to look just right. Didn't matter if you had a concern or, I don't know, actual facts. You were just being difficult. That's the word she liked. Difficult. So let's talk about that roof. The aesthetic material, her word, not mine, was something she made us all install. Lightweight, pretty, but basically fire waiting for an excuse. And the power line? Running right behind the first row of houses, including hers, like an accident the universe kept on layaway. I try to bring it up. More than once, actually. Meetings, emails, those little chance conversations in the hallway. You know the type. She smiles, nods, but somehow you never finish your sentence. When I push it, she just brush it off. Safety doesn't need upgrades if it still looks fine. That was her answer. Like logic could be airbrushed. I stopped arguing after a while. I mean, I've done infrastructure inspections for years. I know what's under the surface. That morning, with the smoke, the stench of melting plastic, and Linda's perfect red suit, I realized her version of fine was about to get tested for real. But let's rewind, because I didn't start out swinging. I started with paper. You want to get anywhere with an HOA, you better have your receipts. So, on a bright morning, no drama, just me, a clipboard, the sun bouncing off the metal hardware. I went to check that power line myself. Up close, it was bad. The insulation, which should have been flexible, was brittle and cracked. Spiderwebs of little splits you only see if you stop pretending they're not there. I checked the installation date, ancient by any reasonable standard. The county records confirmed it. This line was over a decade past its design life. So I did the only thing you really can do, wrote a formal notice to the HOA. I made it simple, no fear-mongering. Here are the photos, here's the risk, here's what could happen in high winds, here's my recommendation. Bring in a real electrician, have them check it out, replace it if they say so. Certified mail. Can't pretend it got lost, right? Linda replied the same day. Not with a thank you, not with questions, not even a request for an inspection. Just one short email. There's no active failure. Like danger is only real if it's making noise. 2 days later, I get a violation notice on my door. Official letterhead, board signature, everything. Apparently, I disrupted community harmony. The fine? $100. Not going to bankrupt me, but it came with a nice little threat. Do it again, and the penalties stack up daily. Standing there, holding that notice, I remember the power line buzzing overhead, almost like it was in on the joke. That's when I realized Linda didn't want proof. She wanted plausible deniability. The HOA jumped to action, all right, but not to fix anything. 3 days after the fine, Linda organized a daytime safety inspection. Sounds good on paper. Clipboards, vests, some contractor I'd never seen, arms crossed, clearly bored. No meters, no real equipment, nothing shut down. It basically walked around, stared at the line, squinted at the sun like they were on a weird architectural tour. At one point, the wind pushed the cable, and it barely tapped a metal bracket by Linda's roof. Made this tiny ticking sound. If you didn't know what it meant, you'd miss it. Linda asked, "Does it look damaged?" The contractor shrugged. "Beachwilly, no." That was enough. That afternoon, the inspection report went up on the HOA portal. One paragraph, no numbers, no photos, just visually acceptable condition. No action required. I still sent in a replacement proposal. Dry. Just numbers, risk exposure, cost estimate. Requested a board vote. They didn't even bother. Proposal rejected. No vote necessary. At that point, it stopped being about neighbors disagreeing. This was the system closing ranks, covering its own backside. They weren't evaluating risk. They were burying it. So I switched tactics. HOAs love paperwork. They use it to hide, to stall, to control. I went back through every document I could find in the community portal. Infrastructure, archived naturally, buried under landscaping and pool schedules. I found one PDF. Electrical Assessment Phase 1. 2 years old. I opened it, and my heart just about dropped out. A real engineer, licensed, had already flagged everything. Load notes, insulation breakdown, the exact scenario I'd been warning about. He called for a full replacement on a defined schedule, not someday. The board minutes from that month told the rest of the story. The report wasn't unclear. It was delayed because Linda wanted the landscaping budget untouched. Imported stone, new lights, perfect shrubs. All the stuff you see when you drive in, nothing that keeps you alive. They picked flowers over safety. Now, I'm not proud of how angry I got reading that. I mean, my hands were shaking. Not because I was shocked by Linda, arrogance was her brand, but because it was so stupidly, pointlessly reckless. They had the info. They had the money. They chose to wait. I was done with opinions. I went and hired my own independent engineer. Cost me more than I wanted to spend. But he didn't come with a clipboard. He brought actual instruments. No staged shutdowns, no fake checks. Just measuring as it was. Within minutes, he found the micro cracks. Not dramatic, but enough. Metal contact under wind load is inevitable, he said. It's just a question of when. He put it all in writing. Replace immediately. I sent it in, short note. This confirms the prior assessment. Action is overdue. The reply didn't address the risk. It came from the HOA's lawyer. Formal letter, all polite threats. If I so much as tried to repair or interfere with the shared system, they'd put a lien on my house to cover damages and enforcement costs. I read that one standing under the same humming line, thinking, you're not even pretending it's safe now, are you? So, I emailed the engineer's report to every single homeowner. No rants, just the document, and one line. Please read before decisions are finalized. The reaction was uneven. A few quiet thank yous. Some questions. Mostly silence. Because it's always easier to ignore risk when it's not your roof. But that afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. No message, just an attachment. Someone on the board had cracked. I saw it all. The engineer's warning, the budget debate, the moment someone asked, what happens if this fails? Linda's reply, if we replace it now, we admit we were wrong. And that, right there, was the real twist. It wasn't ignorance. It was pure image management. Safety versus reputation, and reputation was winning. An hour later, Linda sends out a community-wide notice. No replacement, final decision. Like physics takes votes. By then, all I could do was wait. I'd said what needed saying, left the paper trail, and the system had decided to look the other way. The next morning, the wind was back, sharp and hot. I stood in my driveway, just listening to the cable vibrate. Same pattern, same risk. Then, yeah, you guessed it, full daylight, no warning, half the neighborhood out front. Linda's roof goes up again. The fire was fast. Smoke everywhere. People yelling, hoses and phones. Linda tried to take charge, claimed it was isolated, nothing to panic about. Then it happened. A sharp, cracking pop overhead, every head whipped up. A blue-white flash arced from the line, right where the report said it would. The wind swung the cable hard against the metal anchor, sparks rained down, and that roof caught instantly. Second time in the same spot. Someone screamed. Someone dropped their phone. An electrical inspector who'd just arrived said, deadpan, that's the failure mode. No one argued. Fire crews rushed in, cut the power, foam everywhere. The flames stayed put this time, but only because they got there in time. The evidence didn't need an advocate. It had just burned itself into everyone's memory. And then everything just changed. Quiet at first, then all at once. The crowd didn't leave. We all stood there, watching the inspectors, looking at Linda, the charred roof. A city official came up, announced the HOA board's authority over the electrical system was suspended, effective immediately. Linda froze. All that power just gone. For the first time, she wasn't in charge. She wasn't even part of the solution. No one said a word. It was heavy, standing there, just breathing it all in. Some neighbors shook their heads, like they were replaying every ignored warning. Linda, red suit and all, was off to the side alone. The tension I'd been carrying, finally, it just sort of faded out of me. I didn't need a push anymore. The facts had spoken, loud enough for everyone. The city wasted no time. Power line declared critically unsafe. Full replacement ordered. No more HOA delays. No more votes. The landscaping budget Linda protected? Gone. All of it shifted to the electrical repair. The stones, the lights, the uniform shrubs? Postponed. No one protested. They replaced the line. It was ugly, thicker, less aesthetic, but strong. Linda didn't stick around. No big exit. Just vanished. By the time the work wrapped up, the street was almost normal again. I stood there, watched the crew finish up, and thought, none of this needed to be a showdown. No heroics. Just the truth, on paper, patiently waiting for the world to catch up. Looking back, I keep thinking about how easy it could have all gone the other way. If I'd blown up, or tried to fix it myself, or made it personal, I probably would have lost. Anger burns out. Documentation lasts. In the end, it wasn't shouting or drama that changed anything. It was the point where nobody could ignore the evidence anymore. And if you're sitting there, maybe living through your own slow-motion train wreck with some local authority, here's what I wish someone had told me. Leave a trail. Save everything. Don't jump to conclusions before you see what's already in the files. And don't get baited into a fight. Let the facts do their work. When it stops being about feelings and starts being about procedures, that's when you bring in the experts. Communities don't fall apart from one bad call. They rot when power stops being questioned, when it gets protected just for its own sake. In the end, authority only matters as long as it's accountable. The law, the real one, is the safety net that stops little problems from turning into disasters. Now, when I hear that power line, new, quiet, sturdy, I remember all that. Things work best when safety doesn't need to grab your attention. When someone respected the rules before the fire forced them to. But here's what I want to ask you. If you were standing there, watching someone sacrifice safety for image or convenience for control, would you step up or would you wait for the fallout? Where's the line for you between keeping the peace and demanding accountability? Tell me, if you've ever faced a mess like this, did you fight or did you watch and wonder? I'd really like to know.